Hey, Dwight, real quick, not to cut you. Something you'll see on Clubhouse and will happen all the time, right? You can say something that's, that's pretty obvious, that's generally true, that most people would agree with, and then you're gonna have somebody who's gonna come off of their mic, and they're gonna bring up some kind of edge case or some kind of, they're gonna say something to contradict, like what you just said, which was perfectly reasonable. I don't know why people, constantly do that.
It's called the opposite position, Anthony. It's how you get to the silver lining.
It's just very, very, very odd. Like, it doesn't really move the conversation forward. It doesn't make the conversation more interesting.
It's just like your opinion.
I do want to address the points that you're making. That nuance where we might not see eye to eye on. The other night I had dinner with a buddy of mine. Back in the days, he was an A&R executive for a very big record label. And, while we were sitting waiting for our food, he used an app, I forgot the name of it. It's an artificial intelligence app. And he made a beat. He actually made 2 beats in 5 minutes in front of me. Now, there's a point in, the history of the world where you need like a bunch of musicians to come together into a studio to, record to get something equivalent to what he did in 5 minutes by himself using artificial intelligence. And it was, the beats that he created were both really, really good. I have another buddy that he uses artificial intelligence to create automations. Like back in the days, if you wanted to, whatever your business was, you're a roofer, and you wanted to create a commercial for your roofing company, that was a daunting, expensive task. Just the creation of the commercial that required a whole lot of people to pitch ideas, plan. It was now, you can, in a matter of minutes, like, come up with a concept. You can use the AI to help you come up with a concept and implement it solo by yourself. The tentacles, like, I had a conversation with a radiologist the other day, and the radiologist was like, well, they'll always need humans. And, I didn't push back. I just listened and I smiled. Radiologists, they value X-rays, CT scans, MRIs, ultrasounds. All radiologists are really doing is pattern recognition. Are you going to tell me that, like, a human being is going to be consistently better than artificial intelligence in terms of recognizing patterns? Is this not even close searching? Not even close. It won't even be close. It's not even close. It's fundamentally just doesn't make any sense. So, like, what I'm trying, and I took like a bunch of different examples in a bunch of different industries to just try to show, like, no one is safe. Nobody's safe. There's so many different ways that this is a game changer. And we are still at hello.
So, Anthony, I have a question, because you said not even close. Do you not enjoy the human element of life, just the part that where we sometimes make a mistake or we get it wrong or whatever? Do you not like that part?
Absolutely excellent point, Edward. And Edward, for the record, what I do for a living, I'm a registered nurse, right? And that human touch, that element, that touch, that human element, the empathy, the connection. Like, I don't diagnose people. That's not my job. I carry out doctor's orders, and I try to help my patients in whatever way, is reasonable and needed. And I don't think that necessarily that can just be willy-nilly replaced. I'm not like, and I have my own biases because it's my profession, and of course I'm going to find some way to defend my profession against AI. I'm clear on that. But there's like a connection that, when you've had like a really good caretaker, that's different from somebody that I don't think you can get from a machine, or somebody that doesn't give a shit.
Anthony, it's called bedside manner, right? Because Anthony, I work in the physical therapy field. It's called bedside manner, and it's definitely the human connection versus dealing with just some robotic, unemotional being taking care of you. And to a degree, yes, it's getting to a point, and I think it's less than a year away, where physicists, doctors, a lot of those doctors will be able to plug things in that'll give them information they don't even understand or know or learning. So again, with AI right now, it's only as intelligent as you are. It can give you the generic answers, but it's about the user experience, and the smarter you are in your questions, your prompts, and how you ask those questions. On the music end, making music, I have a background in music. Suno is one of the ones I was mentioning in chat, where you could literally have.
That's the name of the hack. Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
Suno.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'll get quiet again, but I just want to share on that.
No, Sean,
No,
he is on point. So, Anthony, I'm in death care, end of life matters for 37 years. So, we've made efforts where we do have some bots on some of our funeral home, cemetery, crematory websites. But the families do not respond the same because they still want to talk to a human being. When I sit with families, it's they just lost a son, or they lost their spouse, homicide, OD. These are the things I talk about when it comes to human elements. Not that the tool of AI is not a tool to help us. I just do not want to get away from people meeting each other organically. This slide left, slide right, all this kind of stuff. I think that we're getting away from community, and I think that we're losing ourselves because we're so reliant on the tool. And I hear you. There's a lot of things that are going to change, but I still want that human element. I want that part to where my 9-year-old granddaughter can still call me and say, "G-Pop, I just wanted to say hi," versus my 34-year-old daughter who decides to text me, and we have this conversation over and over and says, "Baby girl, don't text. I want you to call your father so I can hear your voice." I want my son to do the same, my son-in-law, my daughter-in-law, because I really stress to them that we don't want to get away from the human component. That's all.
I definitely agree with that strongly. I think the way that I envision that manifesting is probably different, because I think one really good point that you're making, like it'll happen in ways that we don't expect. So let's say that for something, like an RN, okay, maybe all of the things that you do now, all of that is now, in 10 or 20 years done. It's all done by, AI is done by machinery. We've got things that do it better than humans. However, it may just make more sense in terms of people's recovery, where the machine's doing all that, but you're still walking in, talking to the patient, asking them how they're feeling, all that sort of thing. Not because you need to do that, but it's in the patient's best interest. I think that the concern, though, and this is to Anthony's point, even though that is all true, and we have recovered from all these things before, the question is really, to what extent will that actually happen? Because when you have so many industries, all right, for example, take the telephone, when at some point, telephone operators were no longer needed. What was the rate of new crazy innovation at that point? It was a lot. I mean, that was a very innovative time in human history. And of course, we kind of been on this exponential curve. But I don't know of any time in history that we've seen so many industries be permeated by one thing all at once. And I don't know if, all right, like transportation. That's one of our biggest industries. Like, do I need the fucking funky ass Philadelphia bus driver to be on this bus and let me on this shit and maybe knock me out if I say some shit that his ass doesn't like? You know what I'm saying? Some of these industries that don't necessarily need that human touch are huge industries. So I think the percentage of jobs that are in jeopardy all at once is the real concern. It's not so much our ability to bounce back and all of that sort of thing. It's just, you know, that speed aspect.
Yeah, Dwight, I think that the part that you said about the bus driver is interesting. And the reason why is I think that these are things that you don't experience in any other place. I've been to 54 countries around the world, right? And just having those experiences with people that you may not ever meet, hop on buses in different countries and having a tour guide that, need a breath mint and all this other stuff. I hear you. But reality for me is those interactions, those opportunities are what make Edward Edward. I like that. I like when families walk into the funeral home or cemetery and I have the opportunity to drive them around and discuss about their loved one that I've never got to meet and to hear that human element. And you're correct. It's going to change. But I think because we are resilient people, a resilient creature, that we are part of the creation, and there's nothing more wonderful than the human being, no machine, no robot, no nothing. I just want us to remember that part, not taking away anything else. I just want to make sure that we get that part to where we don't forget that element. I think a lot of people today sit around, even kids, brothers and sisters sit in the same space, and they're texting each other right next to each other versus talking, or they're in a restaurant. I mean, guys, at some point we have to really think to ourselves, is the technology benefiting us, or is it a tyrant? The two things that we got to look at. So I know there's some benefits, but I don't want to become tyrannical, that's all.
Well, it's like a cultural infection right now, because we have to be able to balance. We're getting to a point where we're going to have to use it as a tool, but not let it tool us. Because this is where, going into the future, and not so far future, where people are talking about having an arm or leg removed and transhumanism. And I hate to, if you haven't heard that term yet, do your research. But basically improving upon your body and people wanting to constantly upgrade. It starts with Neuralink, but where does it stop? So we're starting to give away parts of our culture and the importance of our own personal critical thinking as human beings, and then just basically giving it up to something that's not human whatsoever and not having control over it. It's very it's concern. I think we all need to take it extremely seriously, and we have to be unified on it. Where does it stop? It can be a good tool, but where does it stop? Because eventually people get comfortable with what it is, and then we just accept it, and then we just completely hit the eject button on relying on one-on-one communication, and then it goes from not just texting across the table, but we just sit in a bubble, like in whatever that cartoon was, that movie where people were just in a bubble, sitting in like a pod. They just live in their pod. It's like the VR experience, right? And then you just don't even go outside anymore, and you're just
I think
in a virtual world.
It's a movie.
Go ahead, Anthony. Go ahead.
Gotcha. No, I'm saying there's a movie, I believe the name of it is Elysium, something like that, where they had this machine that can heal anybody of any ailment, and the rich people that were, formerly on Earth have left, and they've colonized like a satellite right outside of Earth, and there's this the star of the movie is trying to get to Elysium so that he could heal some family member of his. I think that was the purpose of it. But I kind of just see this. So many people are super, super optimistic and see this, like this future of plenty and like, it can play out that way. And there's no country I would rather be in as we go through the change than the United States. I think that of all the countries, when we look at the demographics and the ability to fix demographic issues through immigration, when we look at like just our ability to be self-sustaining if need be, and our military might, I think that when you combine all of those things, that America's probably best positioned of any country to survive what's coming next, as unscathed as possible. But that doesn't really mean much, like I think that we are going to go through some difficult times. This is, and when I used to laugh at the UBI, I thought like this is ridiculous. This is basically socialism. This is dumb. But it's becoming more and more apparent that we're headed towards like a very stark rich and poor, have and have not, and those people that have access to those resources. Sean mentioned transhumanism. Like, are they going to even be the same species as poor people? Like, when you can afford to have the brain implant that other people can't have, and that brain implant can make you think, 1,000 times faster, and you get perfect recall, and you could, search a database, and every person you see, you know who they are, what they're about, and everything about them. Like, this is brave new world territory. I'm just like, these are things that kind of like existential type questions that keep me up at night.
Facts. Yeah, I'm writing a story kind of about that. It's kind of interesting. Y'all might be inspiration for it in the chat. Anyway, so yeah, the transhumanism thing that you mentioned, it actually ties. So I mentioned third places in the chat, and I be asking about it. The point that I want to make about that transhumanism, third places, all these things. While we may value the human element, we have to be wary that some of these changes may happen outside of our, I guess, conscious decisions. So an example I would give would be third places. Third places is the place. I actually have one, but a lot of people don't. Your first place is home. Your second place is work. Your third place is for a lot of people going to be church, but a lot less people attend church in today's age. I'm one of them, but something like that where you've got maybe it's a gym, maybe it's a bar that you hang out at or whatever. A lot of people are lacking that, and it's not because people don't want that. It's because of these macro scale changes that weren't designed to do that. It's NIMBYs, it's districting laws, it's result of like all these different factors. And then you also have social media, for example. When did we all decide as a society that, you know what, I don't like all this interacting in person stuff. I'd rather argue with my uncle that I haven't seen for 12 years about some political topic on Facebook. You know what I'm saying? Nobody consciously decided that we wanted to do these things. It's just that the technology progressed in a way and the money made sense in a way where this is kind of what happened. Same thing with transhumanism, all of these things. So my point is, we're already seeing this unfold, and I think we have to be cognizant of that. We can't just say, oh well, the human spirit is irreplaceable. Well, of course it is. We're humans. Our human will and what makes us human is incredibly important to us, but what we are dealing with is a system that is, sure, it's operated by people, but it is, in a sense, greater than the sum of all parts. We're talking about macroeconomic and macro socioeconomic systems that are unfeeling. They don't have agendas per se. This is just shit manifesting in a way. So that's, I think, Edward, what like I get what you're saying, and I agree, and I want to feel that way, but it's hard for me to feel that way when I see this trajectory that we're on.
So, Dwight, and I appreciate that. So, just to give you a little perspective, so I've been going to a men's fellowship since I was 16, one Saturday or one Sunday a month, since I was 16 years old, in person. Last Sunday, we had 4,000 men show up in person on a regular basis. There's a lot of communities going on that put down their cell phones and really get in life. When my children come over, my daughter's an attorney, my son's a mechanical engineer, we put all technology in a box in our house. We talk about family, and we talk about life. And we have a connection with God that we personally believe that for us is bigger than any form of technology. And we have this in our home that my wife always says. We believe in AI. It's almighty intelligence. We will let the other intelligence follow that. Artificial comes after actual intelligence, almighty intelligence. We teach our grandbabies this. But we're communicating that because I think the communication that we have as a family is more important than what we have with things. Because I think that AI is a thing, is a tool. And I think, like you said, we're not consciously making decisions where we should be making these decisions, where we're choosing life over things that's causing us to, number one, separate ourselves from each other, causing us to not be critical thinkers, not be innovators and passionate and engaging. I love these things. It's like when Izzy and I go back and forth. If Ed and I was in real life, we'd be doing the same thing. Sean, the same thing. I think American over there in Chicago, I think if we all met up, I think our experience would be completely different. But we'll have a wonderful time together, or we'll learn clarity over agreement. And to me, I think I don't want to miss out on this. I'm 61 years old, guys, and I don't want to miss out. I see so many young people today that have no interpersonal skills. They can't even talk. People got degrees. My wife says people got degrees but no temperature. They study something, but they can't talk to anybody. It's just pretty sad. So, Dwight, you're correct. I hope that we can get back to some level of balance, some level of, and I like what Summer said in the chat, I know where my help comes from. Definitely not from AI, guys. I always ask people this question. If you're going to ask a question, why not ask God first? If you're a believer, and I want to make sure people know that. Because if you're not a believer, ask whatever belief system you have. But my help comes from the Lord. It doesn't come from AI, but I will use it because it's a tool. I land there.
Edward.
This one for a second too, and I appreciate the conversation because I think this is extremely important. Here's one that we're going through right now. Remember cutting the cable? Remember how much, how cable was so damn expensive that we ended up cutting the cable and we started streaming? Now look what's happening in streaming. We're paying as much as we were paying for cable now because you got a Hulu, you got a Paramount Plus, you got Netflix, you're paying 20 for ChatGPT or 30 for Grok. You got all these different services those aren't streaming, those are AIs. But if you think about all these now things that cost 20 here, 30 there, $5 there, $2 there. Look at all the streaming. And the thing that concerns me, and it's very, I think Black Mirror is it's the twilight zone of today. And if you look at it, think about when you do get that new leg or that Neuralink, and what that subscription service. Did anyone talk about subscription service? Wait till they do subscription service. Oh, you get all these amenities with your service when you have it implanted. But if you can't pay the bill, then you're going to get that with the commercials infused in it. It's not too far off if you really think about it, right? Hulu gives you an option to have commercial-free Hulu, or you pay a little bit more. Look at Amazon Prime, right? You think you're going to get to see anything? You're like, oh, I'm going to watch this movie. Oh, no, that's going to cost you $2.99. Wait a second, I have Amazon Prime. I can't see it. Well, cutting the cable, cutting the cord, and now the streaming services, and this is happening right now. And what everyone should be looking at is how this same kind of analogy and focus is exactly what we're going to be walking into in the next level. we have to stay on top of the technology so we understand it. If you don't stay on top of it, you get behind, you get confused. We have family members that just don't get it, any of it. They're kind of almost in a way blessed because they're not going to see and deal with things that we're going to have to deal with as we get older. I'm just short of 48 as well, so as far as getting older and seeing all this, I've always found it important to stay on top of tech, and I'm semi-tech nerdy, but I've met a few people that actually are developers in AI, and it's over my head, and I'm still trying to stay on top of it. It's coming out so quick that you don't have a chance to catch up, understand it, or deal with it, and then before you know it, you run over and you're taken over.
Hey, Sean, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
When was the last time you've been out to the ocean?
Oh, I live near it. It's cold as hell. That's the only reason why I don't go to it. But I used to have an office that was like literally 50 steps away from the ocean. But I'm about 10 minutes away. I see the ocean fairly regularly.
You see it, but when was the last time you've been out to it?
Been in it? Oh, no, for a while. Yeah.
Okay, no, I understand. The reason why I say this, that everything you said is true. I mean, I got it. But this is a conscious decision that each person is going to have to make for their own life. We either going to be the expression of who we are, because see, I believe getting outside is important. I tell young people all the time, it's good to, you are now free to move about the country. You're now free to move about every place. And you know what I've learned from the lockdown? That you guys know that the biggest business that came out of the lockdown is door-to-door services? Did you guys know that? There are more people dropping off stuff at people's doorsteps now than anything else, which is crazy. We've gone back to there's nothing new under the sun. People are ringing people's doorbells, knocking. I see people putting door hangers on people's doors. Why? Because I think that the human element, Sean, has become so much into the screen. All we do is look at these screens and swiping left, swiping right, swiping this, swiping that, versus just going out. And if you get a chance, go look at my post. My handle's everywhere the same, Edward Leno 827, or on X, on YouTube, on Facebook, the same. My wife and I, last Sunday, went to the ocean in Newport Beach. We just took beautiful pictures. We do this every weekend. It's one of the things we do. We like each other. We're going to talk to each other. And it's just fun. But the biggest part for me is this. Getting outside. Looking around. Too many people today, and I talk to young people here in California on a regular basis, and I ask, when's the last time you've been to the ocean? When's the last time you had a picnic? Just go out, put out a blanket, and just have a picnic. Guys, we're so much into the technology that we forget the people around us. Like I tell people all the time, there's more abundance in your life, but you're not even recognizing it. I learned.
I'm hoping that, like, this will, at least to some extent, result in that. Although I think, like, the trajectory right now is not good, in my opinion. I can see a situation where it actually enables us to connect with each other in ways that we couldn't before. And I know, like, for a lot of people, Anthony's example of, like, oh, we're going to have to be socialists, like, that sounds extreme to a lot of people, which it doesn't really sound that extreme to me, but I'm kind of crazy. What I can kind of see, which is related but not related, well, if we're not all doing these menial-ass jobs, you know what I'm saying? Like, if we get rid of the factory worker, nobody wants to, like, fucking likes working. If we get rid of the burger flipper, nobody likes flipping fucking burgers. If we're doing things, if we are freeing ourselves up to do things that have more meaning and preferably have more human connection, and we're connecting with each other more, that could actually be a positive. It's just, you know, we see how things plays out. You know what I'm saying? We see how things tend to play out.
Dwight, I got it, Dwight. Everything you said is true. But Shane just said in the chat, okay? Because we're talking about stuff of substance and actually spending time with your loved ones and taking your children out and going outside, the room shrinks. People leave. Because it's not drama, guys. There's no trauma. There's no drama. There's real life. life going on. It's just funny that when you have a conversation about responsibility and just enjoying the abundance that's in life, listen, like I tell people that work at our organization, hey, thanks for showing up today. Thanks for being on time. That's a good thing. I mean, guys, just showing up is a good thing. I don't know why we don't see these beautiful things that we have versus all this other stuff that people want to define themselves by. That I'm an AI technician, and I got this going on. I'm an AI engineer, and I'm a computer nerd, and this. Okay, that's great. But who are you? Who are you? What we do to make a living is not who we are, guys. We retire from that. You have to ask yourself the question. Look in the mirror today and ask yourself the question. Who am I? Do not be defined by technology. Be defined. Now, this is Edward, guys. Be defined by the one who created you. Because there is an image. And some of us don't believe. And you know what? I respect those who don't. It's okay. I can have conversations with everybody. And they all know this. I don't care who you are. One thing I will never do. I don't judge people. I don't do that. I have no right to do it. Okay? What I do is make observations, but at the same time, I'm going to show kindness no matter who you are. You don't have to believe what I believe, but I'm going to show you respect regardless. And I hope that at some point, each one of you, I have the privilege of meeting you in person. Because we're real communicators, like I tell my grandbabies. Words are 7% of communication. Tone is 38%. Body language is 55% of communication. Why do audio apps die? Because we don't get to see the real intention of that body language, of what people are really communicating. It's really, really sad.
So many examples of comfort and convenience, and that seems to be what the culture has become. People want comfort and convenience, and they want the delivery service to their door rather than having to get outside and go and pick it up for themselves. Even our TVs, even the high-end TVs now don't even have an on-off button. It's the remote control that has that. If your remote control doesn't work, well, then you can't even use your TV. I mean, there's so many different examples. I mean, electric vehicles, the dependency on all electric. Guess what? Even gas depends on an electric gas pump now. So it doesn't even matter if you have a gas or an electric. And when you get to a point where they just own everything, they can turn it off on you. I say they, I'm talking about the government, whoever that entity is. We're basically starting to lose control. We used to have phones where we could actually take a battery out and put a new battery in. Now we have to plug our phone in. We can't have like 5 batteries, right? Just take them out, put another battery into our phone. No, not anymore. And even when your phone's off, you're still connected and pinging to satellites where you can be found. The possible elimination or threat of currency and cash going all digital, and how that can just be shut off if whoever they are, you can represent that in any way you want to take it, shutting it off because they don't want like what you're saying anymore, the control over us and how much we're allowing that control to be taken over, versus say back in the day when you ran your own farm, you were homesteading, whatever you want to call it, growing your own things, not relying on any technology at all. You start your own fires, et cetera, et cetera. You were independent. You didn't have there's no control over that. You could do that without there was nothing that could prevent you from using those things. Now everything we use is completely dependent. We wouldn't know what to do with ourselves. I mean, if California had, for example, where I live, had no electricity for 7 days, can you imagine the mayhem?
Yeah, I can imagine the mayhem, but I like to see that happen, Sean. You know what?
That would be a true purge. That'd be a true purge.
It wouldn't be a
Shut
purge.
off for 2 weeks.
No, it wouldn't be a purge. No, it wouldn't be a purge. This is so funny. I don't know why all of us miss out on the reality of life. Guys, there was life before electricity. There was life before the telephone. There was life before the internet. Guys, we've done this. We are the ones who created what we have. And I don't know, like I tell my children all the time, this stuff, we've done some stuff. The human person, the spirit of the human, has gone through all kinds of pioneers, going from east to west coast. There came across the pioneers of gold, California gold rush. All these things are happening, and we've adapted. But the difference is back then, we had more family time. We, like Sig put in the chat, we respected each other. We respected each other's boundaries. What's happening now is people don't respect themselves. Both men and women. We don't respect ourselves anymore. So we just let anybody do anything to us. We let anybody in our home that we don't really know. We let people convince our children that they're not boys and girls, and we let people cut them up and do all this craziness for us. I mean, just listen to what we've come to because man has decided that they can control other men or other women. It's just completely nonsensical. And Sean, that's why I say that at some point we gotta get outside. Let me say it again, we gotta get outside. People gotta go and talk to somebody else. Go to the library. Go somewhere where you're gonna meet some people. Talk to somebody. I mean, listen, I do this on purpose, guys. I'll go in the supermarket on purpose and say hello to people. They're shocked. People in California are shocked. They look at me like I'm crazy. I said, yeah, I'm just saying hello. It's a nice day. It's a good day. Just want to say hi to you. It's crazy. I say, hey, why? I talked to two 18-year-old people on Monday. 18-year-olds. I just wanted to find out how their day was going. And I just asked them a question. When's the last time you guys ate at the dinner table with your parents? I just want to know. Or sometimes I talk to young ladies, I always ask young ladies and young men, would you choose a good career or good marriage? What do you guys think today?
I'm gonna guess career.
Most people want security before a relationship. I mean, I don't know. I think it's individual, but I like being secure myself and not relying on anyone. But that's very individual. Some people, it's the other way.
Yeah, see, Deshaun, you got it right, though. You got to rely on yourself. And what Dwight said is people say career. And the reason why people say career is because we have told people for the last 50 years that having a degree or going somewhere and getting something is more important than being loyal, being a person that's dependable, being someone who shows up on time, being a caring human being, respecting yourself. We don't teach these things. Like I always tell young people, they say, well, they say, Edward, you old school, you talk about stuff, times have changed. I said, so you're telling me showing up on time has changed? You telling me respecting yourself has changed? You telling me being a person of excellence has changed? You telling me being an honorable person has changed? You telling me lying is not changed? Does lying still exist, guys? Or do people still do that? I mean, I'm just curious.
What I call it is my truth. My truth.
Yeah, you're right. This is what I always ask when people say that to me. What is your truth? And how's that working on? How's that working for you?
I appreciate what's being said in the chat too. I want to say I appreciate what's being said in the chat too. Oh, she left. I was gonna say I'd love to see Christy come up on stage, but I think she left. Cause I think she has some resistance to just the conversation of, some people just fully embrace and say don't deny technology. I get that, but because everyone else is learning, and even if we stop, other people might not stop. We have to stay on top of it, be smart, understand it, and know how to handle it, use it correctly. It's like Clubhouse. When Clubhouse first came out, look how messy it was. Look at now how it's changed and how it's evolved from then, and how it's kind of how you see the ebbs and flows of how even just from room to room, how some of us are just finding it hard to even want to find a place to even go into if we want to use this app because there's such lackluster. Everyone's robotic, and let's talk about Diddy. Let's talk about Israel. And I'm like, there's so many other things we could talk about. I think a lot of people don't want to come in and open up a room because then you're charging me out to handle all of that. I do want to say before I have to go right now, I do have to leave. But Edmund, I do appreciate you actually being in the room for a change and stating, hey, we're having a debate and you're streaming it live on YouTube. I do want to give you credit for that. And for that, I do give you respect for doing it this way. I think this is a smarter way to go about it. So I appreciate that. Thank you. What's up, JB?
JB, Sean, I just want you to know I respect you, bro. Thanks for coming up and being.
Appreciate you too.
Just being yourself, man.
Respect you too.
That's why when we come and we just be real, I think
He boomed it. He boomed it.
But that is not a concern of mine. I'm not
concerned with who's fucking your children either. Who gives a fuck? Shut the fuck up. Nobody cares.
He's not targeting fucking anyone right now.
What do you mean? But there's nothing. But there's no clients. Nothing happened. I'm saying there's nothing wrong. And guilt is in prison for no damn reason. She trafficked the kids to nobody.
Well, that's what the document says.
Exactly.
Fucking wild.
That is not what the documents say. That is not exactly correct. You haven't seen the Southern District redacted files from the court case. This camel-nosed jockey, shawarma-eating financier from Canada, is a fucking bullshit artist picking his nose and wasting your time.
That's right. That is true. That is actually true.
Fucking A, that's true. You say the same thing day after day on here. Are you like, I know you must have Tourette's like Dr. T-Rob's up there who uses the N-word at the end of every sentence. N-word! Wow, what a life.
Randy is autistic.
What a fucking life.
I'm just someone who's like, you don't value your time, so why would I value your time? I value my time. Don't waste my time. Allow me to waste
You
your
value your time. If you valued your time, you wouldn't repeat yourself every single day on here. It's pathetic.
You can leave it. You can
Exactly, N-word. There we go with the Tourette syndrome again. It's the same story every single day. What's wrong with you people?
Shit. What do you mean, you people?
You people! You repeat yourselves. I'm talking about Clown House
Hey,
users.
Congressman, what's the name of your boat?
Lady Hawk.
Lady Hawk what?
That's the name of it, Lady Hawk.
That's too fucking generic. The Hawk with an E.
Hawk is spelled H-A-W-K, mate.
Some people spell it with an E.
No. We spell it without the E.
Oh, child. I'm tracking my sister right now. I'm gonna child.
You thought you were going to track her to my boat.
I'm not. Every boat has an N.
Oh, I didn't register it, actually. I bought it on
That's
Craigslist.
right. Now you
but
too broke.
I didn't register it.
Well, I don't blame
Ooh, child, I'm gonna say the N-word 1,000 times. Ooh, child, Epstein didn't do anything wrong. Ooh, child, the Republicans are a bunch of conservatives. Ooh, child, my name is Randy. Put that in Sunu. Put that in Sunu.
Dude, don't trade me hate Trump. Don't hate me hate Trump. I'm not the one saying we're pedophobic. He is.
That's right. The biggest fucking moron.
I never called anyone pedophobic. He is the one calling you pedophobic.
Randy, stop repeating yourself. It's crazy, Randy. How many times are you gonna repeat yourself? We've heard it already.
I'm not the one calling you pedophones. That is true.
No, because you have your pro.
But I'm not the one saying that. I'm not an elected official. You're not voting for me so that I protect the one fucking your children. That's not what's happening here. How about you go?
What's happening here, Randy, is that you're spamming regardless, and you're saying nothing intelligent or important, and you just repeat yourself day after day like people care what you have to repeat. They just don't care anymore, Randy. You've reached the end of the cycle. Let it go. Stop repeating yourselves.
I do not care who fucks your children. I don't care who fucks your children.
You just keep repeating yourself. It's crazy, Randy. Stop it.
That is, I just would like it if no one fucks my kid.
That's-
I don't care about your kid.
You don't have any kids, so you won't have any
Because if I had them, then Trump would fuck it.
God
This
has
is
you
just
here.
another toxic space. I'm leaving. I can't deal with people like Randy anymore. It's a waste of time. It's such a waste of time.
It is a waste of time. I'm going to have.
I don't know why, but like, did you ever see the other video where like
Question was, it's those rich people, they're given an unfair advantage. That's just, those rich people, a lot of them worked and created and have an intelligence that, quite honestly, I don't have. And we're blessed to have them, you know. Are they perfect men? No. Will they take advantages that they can get? Yes, they will. But, and it's aggravating that, say, Walmart has put out a lot of small business, but it's not aggravating when I go and get a fair price for something I'm purchasing at Walmart. It's, I don't know. It's a hard problem to solve.
I don't disagree with you. Indira, what's going on with you, Indira? What's going on, Indira? Wow, that's a whole, wow, Miss Indira.
Hey, how are you?
It's the best day of my life. How are you?
I'm hanging on in there. I'm hanging in there. I can't stay long, but I saw a notification that Joe was in here, and I believe she sent me a message, maybe on TikTok or somewhere, saying that, you know, she would love me to come back. So
I love that you're back. Oh man, I do love it.
yeah, but as you can see, Joe, I have been very busy in politics.
Oh yes, ma'am, you have been. We're proud of you.
Thank you, and it's about to be on and popping. So Edward, I have been at the White House. I've joined this organization where we've been discussing policy on the federal level, and just meeting a lot of major players in the Trump administration. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Well, that's a good thing. You know where I'm at. You need some help, let me know.
I absolutely will. But but I just want to come in and say hello. I got some paying job work I got to do right now, but I just want to come in and say hello. I don't know what you guys are having another room, but I'll certainly be on the lookout for it. And Joe, you still have my cell number, don't you?
I think I do, but I'll have to look. I don't recall that I do, but I'll look.
Oh, okay. Well, look and see and everything. But it was good talking to you guys.
You too. Thank you for dropping in.
You're welcome.
There's a lady who could lead. I'm telling you, she should.
Yeah. So thank you. I'll see you guys soon. Okay.
Appreciate you.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah, Joe B., I think that there's a lot of leaders. You're a leader too. We're all leaders, you know. So it's just what are people willing to take on, you know? It's a big task out here. So, especially here in California.
Well, that's a whole country in itself, right?
It is a whole country in itself, and hopefully, you know, we'll get Steve Hilton in the right, proper spot. I've been attempting to work with his campaign for the last 4 months, so see what happens, you know.
Who is that again, Edward?
Steve Hilton, he is running for the governor of California.
Yes, I didn't hear the complete name.
Yeah, the New Revolution. He used to be on, had a program on Fox News, but he actually worked in the British government. He worked with Margaret Thatcher. He was like her Secretary of State, you know. So that was a pretty good thing. So I don't remember all the people that was in the last room, but I was trying to pop them back over. Miss Natasha, you want to share anything? I see you down there. Some of you guys moving forward. So, share the room out, you guys, just for the moment, since Edward's trying to say hello to some people, since I'm back on for the moment, right? Some of you people I haven't spoke to in a while.
Na festa do fim de semana, só rolê bom. Ela chega e desencana.
Guys not to be so quiet.
No, my app's glitching. Something's wrong with Clubhouse.
Yeah, it always been that way.
True.
You should have said, "Rose, come out. Come out." I don't think you were in there when we had this other conversation where I got dropped out of some rooms because I was talking about the Bible. I thought it was quite interesting. We had a whole conversation about it.
I meant this tongue in cheek, but God forbid, right?
Yeah, he does. But, obviously people don't want to hear the truth. They just want to hear their truth. So it's just kind of interesting. But
And it changes every day.
oh yeah. Of course, you know that. You can't be the same person because it's not. That's not. People want to be a character. They don't want to have character. That's a big difference,
Good point.
Having character.
Be a character.
Listen.
Come on up, Elle. What's up, kid? Hey, Natasha.
Elle, what's up, Elle?
Elle left. Dadgummit.
Yeah, she popped in, popped out. I haven't talked to her in a month of Sundays. Yeah, people, they come in and out, people pop in and out. But I just did this room because I was in another space and it crashed on us. Healthy debate. So I just tried to get some of those people back in. But
How come Healthy Debates crashed?
Roger left, and I don't know how Clubhouse works anymore. But I wasn't a moderator. I think I was, but
Hey, Sig.
yeah, what's up, Sig? It crashed and.
Come on up, man. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah, Sig's a good guy. Hey, Sig, do you know why it crashed? I don't know why the room bombed or somebody bombed it or whatever. Boomed it. That's what they call it. Boomed it. But I thought it to be quite funny. So, but like we were having a real, what I call, good discourse. No yelling, no cussing, just having a conversation. You think it was, really? Oh, that's interesting. Why would he crash it? He could have, but very interesting. So, but I found the conversation very interesting because we were thinking more about. Yeah, I think we're thinking more about technology and not people. And I think that's a very scary place to be in life. If we think that AI is our answer, we really lost our way as people.
Hi, Sig. I haven't been on the app much. I've been so busy. Right now I've got a carpenter in my house and I'm trying to pick out wallpaper, and I had my granddaughter here. There's been a lot go on, Edward. I had my grandson at my house for 5 months.
How's your grandson now?
Well, he's doing okay now. I wouldn't pick the denomination that they're going to, but my kids are back in church. And, but he was.
Robot's going to be moving, 1,000 times faster than a human in physical space, literally picking strawberries at a rate of 1,000 times faster than a human. Like, I just think the exponential growth here is something that you're not really taking account for in your forecast.
And again, you can object to the people who are advocating for this. There's a bunch of reasons, reasonable reasons, to be like, nah, we don't want an automated world. Like, one of the biggest reasons is you're going to displace workers by the millions, if not hundreds of millions, in a relatively short span of time, and leave a whole bunch of people out of the workforce and therefore out of the means by which to provide for themselves to a large degree. I think that's a little bit too doom and gloom, but a lot of people do argue that. What's hard about those arguments is you have to take into account the creation of new jobs that go along with the technological development, but you could still take that into account and then argue that there is a trajectory by which a huge swath of any given workforce is going to be, especially in America, are going to be displaced by machines. And I do think that those arguments can be made, taking into account all of the parameters involved. But like, then what do you do? And then there's a bunch of people who have policy solutions. Like one kind of conceptual example would be the freedom dividend by Andrew Yang, but it's basically a form of universal basic income. But what pays the universal basic income is a tax on the technology companies that are producing the machines that are displacing the workers. So you could do something like that as a policy solution. And then the reason why it's good for the companies is that people are still getting money so that they can purchase things. So the economy is still going in some way. And among the things they'll purchase are whatever the technological companies are making or producing, the goods, the services, etc. You need people in your society to make money so that they can go purchase whatever the fuck the robots are making, whether it's popcorn or whether I don't know, man. Robots are gonna be doing all kind of shit, but like whether it's a Waymo, whatever it is, like you need people with money. If they don't have money, they can't buy your shit. If they can't buy your shit, then you producing all of the robots and the Waymos and shit doesn't matter, right? So like it's an issue for everybody in the economy.
Yeah, but these things, I think y'all don't understand. These things will be gimmicks for at least 5 to 10 years, at least.
Caleb, don't. I was deliberately avoiding the sex robots. Caleb, I'm sorry. That's a whole new can of worms, Caleb.
What is going on here?
No, go ahead. Go to. I'm sorry. I was making a joke.
What is? Okay. You know. What the hell? Anyways, I was saying it's gonna be a gimmick. It's gonna be a gimmick, I think, for the next 10, 15 years. Like I live in one of these countries that of course they want this automation stuff. They want everything to be, like super advanced, right? They got money. But I still think it's a gimmick at least for say 15, 20 years from now. You know what I'm saying? Still. Again, I think because we got used to sci-fi movies and everything, seeing everything. And look, I'm a sci-fi nerd. I kind of want this stuff, but I don't want people to be displaced without maybe a safety net or something. And that's what, yes, we're going to, and that's what we're not thinking about too. Like, we still gonna need people for the next foreseeable 30 years. Period.
But like, come on, wait. Are Waymos a gimmick to you? Like, what do you mean by gimmick?
Well, no. I mean, I'm not saying Waymos are a gimmick. Like, I don't have Waymo. We don't have Waymos here per se. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know about Waymo. I'm not in the States. So yeah, I don't know about.
I think
this will actually be a problem. This will actually, in the long run, be a problem for the government. And here's why. Because, even if people are not working and their needs are being taken care of, it gives them too much idle time to think. And what are they going to think about? They're going to think about how they don't like the government. They're going to think about, they're just going to have too much time to be creatively thinking. And this is where revolutions and overthrowing of governments starts to happen.
That's a huge assumption.
It is.
With more idle time comes a lot of possibilities. Some people will probably think creatively. A lot of people will probably just indulge in a bunch of different things, like going to the movies, getting massages, going on vacations, hanging out with friends, playing basketball or sports, watching games. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with your idle time. and people are led by their interests. And so they're probably going to go where their interests lie. And there'll probably be generalizable trends in terms of what people do with their time if they're not working. But a lot of people will probably argue that this is better because you're getting a lot of your life back. If you're not spending a lot of your time working and your income is basically a freedom dividend or some kind of universal basic income that is derivable from the proceeds collected from technology companies that displace workers, then you have more time to actually live your life and do what you want to do. A lot of people are going to invest that in their family. They're going to raise their kids. They'll probably prefer some kind of homeschooling. They'll be maximally available to do it. The government might even, in certain jurisdictions, subsidize it to a certain extent, like they do in a lot of jurisdictions already. Like there's a bunch of ways it can go. That's not just people, I don't know, stewing and brewing about how the government sucks. They'll still probably have people like that, but most people probably won't do that. And there'll probably still be a bunch of economic disparities and income inequality, to be fair. So there's going to be some basis for people to be mad about shit. And I don't think everybody's going to have the same access to the same amenities. But there's just a lot of variability is all I'm really trying to say.
I'm trying to figure out what utopia you live in.
Oh, I don't think it's going to be a utopia. I think it's going to be something straight out of... I think it's going to be something straight out of Black Mirror, bro. I think it's going to be something straight out of Black Mirror. For example, since Caleb went there, there's going to be a lot of problems. There's going to be a lot of problems with relationships when robots get as sophisticated to where you can barely tell them apart from human beings, and people start having sexual relationships with them, which is inevitable because people right now are fucking silicone dolls that don't even move. So that's going to happen, and there are going to be some preferences that people have towards these very anatomically correct, very realistic robots, android robots, and it's going to fuck up the dating scene for a lot of people. It just is. And I don't know exactly what the social toll of that is going to be, but there's been a bunch of books written about it that I think are fascinating, about the social tolls and how people are actually going to be advocating for robot rights. You think I'm playing, but I'm not playing. Dead ass serious. There are going to be people advocating for rights for robots just like people advocate for rights for pets or for non-human animals. And they're dead, they already exist, but they're fringe. But they'll be way more popular if you get sophisticated enough androids that look like and act like human beings. So you're gonna have people doing that, and that's gonna be a whole political fucking paradigm. That's gonna be relatively new.
We'll be dead and gone by the time they come along.
I don't know that that's true. We'll be old probably, but they're already making these robots. It's 2025. They're already making them. The prototypes exist. You think I'm bullshit? I know way too much about this shit because I studied it in college under what's called, if you want to Google it, it's called transhumanism, and this is a whole ass philosophy of people who are advocating for exactly the shit we're describing. These motherfuckers are not playing; they're dead ass serious. They think that the future will be a lot greater if we can, in various different ways, maximize the development of computational technology. Ray Kurzweil, just to name drop some people, he talks this way. But anyway, I literally studied transhumanism in college as a part of my, I was a philosophy background, and I actually was trying to develop a college course. They had this program at UCLA where they let undergraduates teach college courses, and I applied for this, so I had to develop this course. So I had to do a lot of reading to prepare for that. This is where all this information comes from. I'm not a weirdo, I swear to God. But bro, matter of fact, I'm gonna name drop a book right now, and the fact that I know that this book exists, you're probably gonna look at me sideways. But it's a fascinating book, and it's not pornographic, although it's suggested it is. There's a book, Google it, it's called Sex and Love with Robots. And it's a book that delves into the future whereby you have sophisticated enough AI robots that are very realistic, anatomically correct, and what the impact of the development of these robots for the purposes of relationships and sex and whatever are going to have on society. That's what the book is about. Google that shit. It's a fascinating read.
But again, of course, you're talking about the future shit, right? Again, Back to the Future, you know what I'm saying, 2015, right? Keep that in mind, right? So I'm comfortable there, right? This is 100 years into the future. We're talking about the next 10 years. That is not a possibility. Yes, you have the silicon extra bots, and you can buy a robot to jack your dick or something, I don't know. But what you're talking about is 130 years into the future. It's not on anybody's periphery. Not yet.
The thing is, so
You know what I'm saying? It's not.
The estimates, to be fair, the estimates vary, but a lot of them are way shorter term than 100 years. But there is debate about how quickly it'll emerge. To be fair to you, like I'm not sitting here pretending like it's got to be 30 years. There are like Ray Kurzweil is an example of this, and there are other futurists. They're predicting like this shit is going to be in the next 30 to 50 years. Like not 100 years. Like 100 years, it'll also be more sophisticated. Like in 100 years, I think that Ray Kurzweil thinks that we're going to be able to literally upload brains into robots. Like we'll be able to live forever. Actually, he thinks that'll happen in years. To be fair.
So that big everything, but he's off.
I mean, yeah, fair enough. Criticize Ray Kurzweil. I'm just name dropping the people who I know think this. But the basis of his prediction is interesting. Like he's talking about the exponential rate of computational power using Moore's law. Moore's law is a very specific. Just Google Moore's law if you want to know more about it. But and then he thinks it's going to head towards what's called a technological singularity, at which you can't really make predictions beyond that. And actually, just Google technological singularity because I'm not going to be able to explain it in a way that I think makes sense because my memory's vague. But if you want to know what it is, Google it. But it basically it's a predictive model to a certain point where all bets are off in terms of prediction wise because there's just a bunch of shit that you can't take into account to make a solid prediction, and it's on a analogy to like a gravitational singularity that implicates black holes, which is why it's called a singularity. But anyway, you can't like basically there's a certain point in time where we can't really make predictions beyond because all bets are off because the level of technological sophistication will have reached a heightened point to the point where we don't know what the fuck is going to happen. That's basically the basic idea. But if that's not helpful, I apologize. But sorry, I'm only enthusiastic like this because I think this shit is fascinating. And I have for decades. I've felt this way since college. I've been in college in like damn near 20 years.
So here's my question. Is Elon Musk a transhumanist? And if so, is he steering our planet toward such a singularity? Because there could be a case to be made there.
He technically could be considered a transhumanist. He embraces a lot of the warnings that come along with this kind of stuff, but yeah, in many ways he's positioned himself in his companies to advocate for a lot of these developments.
He is.
Particularly, he stands to benefit the most. He's one of the people in the world who stand to benefit the most from the advancements of AI. Also, it can aid him in other businesses like his Neuralink stuff, like all of that shit. Like that's all futuristic shit, and a lot of the transhumanists are definitely pro that. But also space travel, like he's trying to put motherfuckers on Mars in the next few decades. And he actually has developed companies that are capable of doing it in that time frame. So, in many ways, he is an exemplar of what I'm talking about. And he is a futurist. He thinks very hard about developing technological futures that he thinks are positive to human beings in various different ways. And in many ways, he's a pioneer. Now, he's also recently been marred and stained with a bunch of problematic political views. So it undermines how people think of him, and I think that's fair because that MAGA shit is some strong Kool-Aid. But that said, he actually is pro a lot of shit. And like it's ironic that one of the things that was the basis of his fallout with Trump that made the news was Trump was supportive of a lot of shit that's undermining to a lot of the futuristic projects that he wants, particularly the advancement of policies that would maximize the demand and the development of EVs, which he has a car company that stands to benefit from, Tesla, and like the embracing of a lot of older technologies and a lot of like old ways doing it. So like coal, natural gas, all that shit. So like there's a tension there that is hilarious, but yeah, he's basically a version of a transhumanist, maybe a moderate transhumanist. Some of these motherfuckers are radical as shit. Like they want to like upload people's brains into machines and shit so they can live forever. And their whole goal is to like cure us of the problem of death. Like death death is like a illness that needs to be solved. Like these motherfuckers are like uber fucking radical, bro. Well, I would say radical, but they don't think of themselves radical. They think of themselves as visionaries or whatever. But yeah, bro.
Larry Ellison.
I don't know who that is. Larry Ellison.
Your Uncle CEO, Palantir.
He's the head of Oracle, Larry Ellison.
The head of Oracle?
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, but
Larry Ellison.
He's on the board.
Larry Ellison. Yeah, my bad.
Chief Technology Officer of Oracle. Yeah.
You're forgetting one crucial step in your advancement to sex robots and being able to be jerked off or masturbated with in a convenience store, and your advancements in of brains going into robots. You forgot one crucial step in there that usually will signify an end. What will end up happening is we will redefine the way we wage war, and we will redefine the way in which we engage, hurt, and kill each other across the globe in society. That is the crucial step to watch, because all those advancements that you're talking about, they will occur in the military first, and we will see something that will be whole-scale, incredible. Like drone warfare in my lifetime has advanced so much that I would be terrified to be on the battlefield now. Not that you wouldn't be scared, but to imagine to fight an enemy and then hear this like little whine going off somewhere in the distance and trying to hide from that in a massive way and give that to a robot you can't kill, you can't harm, it doesn't tire, it doesn't have food, and put that against the population, and you're going to see something that you may not like.
Well, okay, to be fair, I think you have a valid point, but just to throw this out there, although there are a lot of examples where it does, not all technological advancements start off with military applications first before they're outsourced to the public. There's a lot of them that are actually developed for public consumption first, and then actually the military will adopt them after the fact. So just to be clear, just so I wouldn't make the assumption that all of these new technologies will start off in the military or have military applications that be weaponized. But a lot of them will. Like AI has a bunch of applications that are non-military already, but it has a bunch of applications that have been military since its inception, from smart bombs to whatever. And like the military is clearly like investing in the development of even more sophisticated AI systems. So particularly for drone warfare, but also for other applications. So like it's a weird example because the early forms of AI were applied to the military, and then they went out widespread to like the general public, but then they got like reinserted into the military again as it advanced. So there's like a weird cyclical thing with that example. But I don't know, man. Like like humanoid robots, I don't know that they have that much of a military application.
Can I show you where
they seem to be primarily developed for like private consumption as opposed to military application. There are some, particularly when it comes to like parts of people's limbs and shit, like to like replace like arms and shit like that, robotics. But like I don't know, like are there humanoid robots that have actually been like deployed in military purposes?
So I haven't said there's a humanoid robot in existence on the battlefield. I wouldn't know that, and we probably wouldn't know that. There's probably some stages of that. I am aware of military exercises where like the Marine Corps 5th React Division beat the AI simulation that was set up for them a number of years ago. I don't know if they've retested it that way. One of the guys hid under a cardboard box and just crawled to the unit and then just planted a fake charge and was able to defeat the system. But it has grown in leaps and bounds since then. But like the application now, what I see is patrol dogs that are actually robotic.
Yep, that's true.
And so I've seen weapons placed on these to be able to implement.
They're using them for like bomb squad applications, law enforcement.
Yeah, so this
a lot of ways.
Yeah, and so like for an old salt like me, a veteran, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing like we thought nuclear weapons were bad, and yes, we didn't have an explosion, but now we're going to implement these alongside with our warfighter frames, And once that technology is even seen, there are going to be other nations that are going to deploy this, develop it, and make their own versions, or even steal ours. Like China steals shit all the time from us, and they'll sell it to bidders around the world. So,
I mean, yeah, it's an arms race.
But what about cyber warfare? That's even
that's also
bigger.
another area.
Yeah, that's a huge application for AI. I mean, you want AIs that are sophisticated enough to outsmart that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why there's government investment in quantum computing, actually. Partially. There's a bunch of other possible applications for quantum computing too, but like, yeah, like all of that shit. Like, I mean, if you really want to, a whole nother like nascent field of technology is like nanotechnology, and like all of the fuck shit you can do with nanotechnology, bro. Like, there are a bunch of military applications for nanotechnology that are scary as shit, and that we've only seen in our sci-fi films. But there are other applications, like there are medical applications for nanotechnology. Like, imagine if you had a bunch of sophisticated AI control robots that are in your bloodstream. They're really, really small, and they can like heal you from the inside. They can like recognize cancer cells and neutralize them before you develop cancers and shit. Like, that's the kind of shit that
Pretty
people
well developed. That technology is pretty well developed and being tested.
Well, it's nascent, but yeah, I mean, yes, it is being developed. That is 100% true. But my point is, the possible applications go beyond what I think the state of the art is at this point. And there's a bunch of reasons. Like, it's not as cost effective. Like, there probably will be a stage at which nanotechnology becomes as ubiquitous as like cell phones. But like, that's the kind of shit that like people have been talking about, theorizing about for decades now in the kind of transhumanist futurist space. Like, it'll just blow your mind the shit that they've come up with, and they're now like starting to actually like have prototypes for and shit. But they've been theorizing about it since the fucking 60s and shit. If not earlier, like, it's wild. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
that shit's fascinating to me.
One thing technology is going to be very, very interesting because, I mean, it's not going to be like the movies Terminator, where you have these lumbering kind of automatons dodging these bullets. No fucking way, dude. Like Brad said, it's hype for this shit. So it's going to be so accurate.
No. AI deciding to wipe out human beings is actually a real possibility. Like, that's...
Yeah, I mean, accessibility too, right? I mean, think about as these things advance and become cheaper, and all of a sudden, like the Mexican cartel or some bad actor that with a bunch of resources has access to this stuff. Like, and we're gonna really need this the fucking Neuralink shit. We gotta hope this stuff works because we're gonna need a revolution in consciousness if we want to.
You better hope I become John Connor and stay my age.
So a lot of these ideas, the only access to the general public has to them are vis-a-vis sci-fi movies that are really impactful on our culture, and so that creates a bias towards looking at them in a very specific way. But they're still like good to like, you know, reference because people have a frame of reference at all for technologies. It may not look exactly like a fucking T9000 or whatever the fuck they're called, but the idea that some kind of sophisticated AI machine becomes self-aware and decides that the biggest threat to its existence are human beings, and then proceeds to create a fucking genocide is actually possible. Like, that's not, it sounds far-fetched, it sounds like the shit out of movies, but that shit is actually plausible. And a lot of futurists do try to take on the threat of like AI that, like, you know, because there's like a logic behind like identifying human beings as threats to the planet, because we do a lot of fuck shit on this planet.
Let me tell you something that like like when I read it, I sat back and people were heralding it as a great invention. They now have drones the size of a mosquito or a bee, like that small. And the idea, like, you won't hear it, you won't see it, you can't pick it up unless you have some sort of counter device or AI or drone protection around you, which even then, that can't do it. But just imagine, like, 50 feet away, all of a sudden, just a swarm of these just come out and just enter you. It hit you in the heart, lung, chest. Like, nothing can be protected because you can't protect yourself from something like this. Or the idea to inject, say, a communicable disease that's horrifying. You could do this. These applications are being thought of because we're doing it with, like, controlling mosquitoes in Florida. We're trying to tinker around these edges, and every time we advance, it seems we go through this whole period where we're going to do like some massive fucking slaughter, and everybody's going to get all noble after everybody's dead, and then we say, oh,
China's
we'll
already
do it again.
China apparently, or Japan or China, one of those Asian countries, developed one that is like they're looking for spy applications.
It's China.
Yeah, that shit's, I mean, Black Mirror is popular for a reason. Black Mirror has a way of tapping into these scenarios. Yeah, Black Mirror, the show on Netflix, it has a way of tapping into these scenarios and kind of showing what's fucked up about some of these potential futures. And it's kind of eerie because that shit's very possible. Like, a lot of that.
I would like to welcome all. Hey, can I welcome you guys to conspiracy theory land that y'all always call us crazy? And now y'all
Okay, first of all, I never said all conspiracies were crazy.
Not you.
Okay. Well, we are pontificating endlessly about possibilities, but that's not quite the same as conspiracy theories.
I'm saying all these things were considered conspiracy theories, though. So
well, yeah, like the
everything y'all saying was conspiracy theories. Y'all called us nut jobs for it.
This y'all, Dima.
This Walker, I'm painting the broad brush. It might be unfair, but I'm
bro. I got conspiracy theories in my family, bro. I love some of y'all. Some of y'all are crazy though.
I just want to welcome y'all over here. Just welcome. Get comfortable.
Yeah, one of the things that I think is attractive about the conspiracy theory community is they do engage in conversations where we kind of loosely talk about future possibilities and all this kind of stuff. And that's fun to talk about. So I'll give you that. The thing I have as an issue against conspiracy theorists is the uncareful logic. I don't like that. That's the thing that I criticize the most.
No, I agree, because there's a lot of people that make up conspiracy theories. Like when something happened, they're like, well, it happened. That's not how conspiracy theories work. No, I definitely get the sloppiness of it, but yeah. But in general, I definitely.
I mean, I was talking to flat earthers for like a year, just because I was fascinated by what the fuck they thought was going on. Like, I was like, wow, like, why'd you just assume that shit? That's just me though. But yeah, I got a lot of conspiracy theorists in my family. It's normal, particularly in the Black community, because we've been engaging in various forms of conspiracy theories about what the government was doing to our communities, and a lot of that shit turned out to be fucking true.
Yeah, we seen a lot of fucked up shit.
So like I get it. It's a part of our culture to a certain extent. I get it, but yeah, some people in our community be going a little too overboard with some shit, bro.
But I'll caution that. Take this as a word of caution. If you think with the advancements of technology that you have infringements on rights and that our applications are going wrong, you wait till this technology actually jumps ahead, and you will see that it will be targeted, and you'll be screaming for something reminiscent of the past. That's what I see going forward. Like, do you really want AI saying, hey, this one neighborhood out here is going to be the biggest problem, so we are going to focus all assets in here, and we're just going to go in and clean it up, however way it determines it. And what we will see is lawmakers bend and modify laws to enable that to happen. And that's what I see going on, because everybody's embracing this thing. It's going to be a utopia. And show me somewhere in history where there ever was a utopia. And please don't bring up the fucking Bible, but I mean, show me a utopia that has existed in civilization.
The only utopia I know of is whatever time period Republicans are talking about when they say they want to make America great again. Because the way they talk about that shit sound like it's a utopia. Whatever period they talk about, I don't know what it is. They make it sound so awesome.
I think that applies to you,
And one thing touching on the conspiracy aspect and looping into how you had said we only get glimpses of this through sci-fi. I mean, there's a long-running history of CIA and other OGA government agencies backing movies, backing certain shows in order to early introduce this stuff to the populace, so it's not shocking when it hits us.
Yes, psyops, right? They call those psyops.
Yep.
That's actually true.
That's not how psyops work, but I mean, that's going a little bit far, but okay.
That can be. It's the only way. Like one, so for example, like if you wanted to introduce slowly but surely your population to a certain amount of comfortability regarding aliens, and you leaked their appearances through various different means, including sci-fi movies and stuff like that, that's actually a theory that people think is actually going on right now. But that would be a version of a psyop if that actually happened. I'm saying it hypothetical. I'm not committed to the fact that that's actually happened, but people have argued that that's literally what has happened. And so like our images of aliens is actually in some sense guided by governments slipping into public consciousness actual aliens. What up, Alante? So that would be a version of a psyop. And then when you reveal like, hey, we've known all this time that these aliens existed, people are less shocked because it looks like they saw in the movies and they're familiar with it on some level. And you can introduce people to a lot of things like that they become more comfortable with over time because it's like they didn't realize that's what you were doing. I would be surprised if our government hasn't done that to us several times already.
Most people don't think for themselves. They are programmed. That's why they come to this room.
I mean, to a certain extent, it's like we can't help but be programmed because it's how our brains work. But
exactly my point.
But we can mitigate some of it. Like certain people are trying to program us for very specific things that we may not adopt.
Naturally, yeah.
If you're going to talk about programming, I would say it occurs mostly when you're in your early 20s. You get programmed, and then you begin a decoupling when you're 30s, and then you hit 40s, and you're like, what the fuck? And then when you go through that period, then you're like, oh, fuck, this is all just shit. What the fuck? Don't believe it.
I disagree. I highly disagree.
Yeah. You can be programmed at pretty much any age. Yeah. As long as you're capable of learning, you can be programmed at pretty much any age.
I agree, but most people are not capable of learning. They don't have critical thought. I mean, think about it. An entire nation.
Almost anybody with a sensible brain is capable of critical thought. That's not a difficult thing to accomplish.
And it's not even about the critical thought that I'm.
Yeah, either it's actually it's about psychological conditioning. Like so, for example, one of the primary means of programming nowadays is our goddamn cell phones and social media algorithms. That literally is how people are programmed. Like even me, like to the best of my ability, I try not to be, but like I know I am because I'll watch a basketball game, I'll see a Burger King commercial 3 times, and all of a sudden I fucking want a Whopper. What the fuck? Like that shit works. It works on anyone. Anybody with a psychology that can be manipulated, it works on them. So this idea that if you're smart enough, or if you're a critical thinker, you can't be programmed is ridiculous. You have a whole ass subconscious that can be impacted by marketing, constantly seeing images, and if that shit is like algorithmic, right? You like certain things, so then the algorithm goes, all right, show him this again. Like you can actually, this kind of thing can be leveraged to like influence people politically. Which was like
it happened every day when people.
It happens every fucking election, but also like that's what that shit Cambridge Analytica. That's what the fuck they were doing, bro. Like that's the shit they were like. They understood that you can use this technology and you can program people's political opinions in a certain way that can actually maximize votes in a certain direction. Like that's possible. That has happened. I think that there's a lot of efforts to like stop social media companies from doing it to a certain extent, but like. It happens, bro. Like, you create echo chambers in social media spaces.
My point saying that more young people are actually easier to be programmed, and then they start decoupling as they age later on in life.
Hold on, you said 20 to 30. I'm saying 2 to 6.
Yeah, all of the above, bro. You can be programmed at any age. Like, okay, so you're right.
It starts as early as a baby. Like, it doesn't start when you're 20.
Certain social media cater to younger ages, like TikTok, for example. And so the reach of younger people in the age bracket that you described, like, yeah, they have an outsized influence on them. But the idea that if an older person were to use TikTok in a similar way or to a similar degree of frequency as younger people, that they could not be programmed in the same way is what I'm disputing. I'm saying it's not really a matter of age. It's a matter of what your habits of social media are and how the algorithms are interacting with your psychology. If you're an older person and you don't fuck with TikTok because people in your age bracket don't fuck with it, then TikTok is not going to be the vector for you. For a lot of old people, it's Facebook because that's what they fuck with. That's what they interact with. My dad comes to me and with a whole bunch of misinformation all the time that he got from Facebook because that's what he uses. And it annoys me because I'm like, bro, like, I know that's wrong, but like, he's like, it'll be something innocuous like, oh, I heard Klay Thompson got traded. No, he didn't. Yeah, it's on Facebook. No, he did not get traded. He's still on the Mavs. He's like, nah, let me show you. And then he showed me some shit. I'm like, yeah, this is false. Like, nah, it didn't happen. Like, he's like, what? And like, it's like, bro, yeah, like, there are ways to figure it out. Like, I go to Shams on X. I told him, like, follow Shams. Shams, if somebody got traded like that, Shams will be all over it. He's trustworthy. And then, so I'm trying to help my dad out with some of this stuff. But he sends me stuff all the time. Like, oh, did you hear about this? I'm like, that's fake, Dad. Like,
and it's annoying as hell because my parents, my mom especially does it to me. I just seen so and so, and wait, no, that's fake news. No, you turned it into the Orange Man. No, it literally is fake news.
Yeah, I'll be having to prove him. I'm like, bro, look, he's on the roster on ESPN. He's still on this team. Like, what do you mean he did not get traded? I would know. But then he'll come home with some accurate information. Oh, I heard Gilbert Arenas got arrested. Yeah, that is true. Right? Same sources though. So now it's like he don't know how to differentiate between the trustful information, you know what I mean, the trustworthy information and the not trustworthy, because he's getting good information and bad information from the same places.
But I mean, I think I gotta think.
Brad, I will give you this. My bad, Emotep. I will give you this. Like, at a certain age, you know what I'm saying, we become a little bit more cognizant and we can decipher these things, especially when we have like experience our skills with these different platforms. So we can get a better sense probably around those ages, 20 to 30, and you know, of what is potentially fake news. So it gives a little bit more credence to what you're saying. But like, again, we're dealing with the kids or the older folks in this particular time in society. It's super hard to decipher for them because they don't necessarily have those skills. They're not using the vectors as much as maybe a 20-year-old who lives in their phone.
No, I disagree. I'm sorry. Because the amount of people that think Trump is the same, sorry, Brad, is crazy. So this man was ranting about windmills and all kind of stuff for 3 days straight. So I'm sorry. No, a lot of older people especially, they put on these YouTube rabbit holes, even young people too, right?
No, I said that. I gave credence to that.
I thought the young,
I gave credence to the fact that older people are looking.
I thought the young and old, they do the same thing, same mess and same sources. It just depends on what people do. A lot of, especially Americans, I'm saying especially Americans, but because I'm overseas, right? Even people here, they will believe this stuff and you be like, no, that's not true. But no, I seen this on TikTok or what. I'm like, no, that's not true. And they be like, oh, well, no, that's not true. I can tell you this and whatever, because I've experienced this, right? This is something I've experienced in real life.
Yeah.
You're going to tell me that's the way it is, and I'm telling you, no, it's not true. But at the same time, you're going to argue me down that it's true. So it just depends on how many people want to really go to different sources and research the facts, and that's the problem. People, and it's worldwide, do not want to use more than one source to search for their facts. And that's the issue. It doesn't matter age, religion, culture, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, actually, we also have to account for the, like, so we're talking about fact, right? So that's easily debunked or whatever. But then there's the notion of things that come from opinion-based sources. And it's like, okay, it's wrong if you disagree, but if you agree with that line of thought, it might be, you know, viable in some way. So there's that aspect of it too, that everything isn't always based in fact. So that's a whole nother layer.
I mean, well, opinion is opinion, like, right? I mean, yeah, I mean, that's
well, yeah, but it can be like political ideology. Go ahead, it's my
yeah, that's opinion.
I want to agree. Like, the thing I was disagreeing with Brad is this idea that once you reach a certain age, you're not susceptible to being programmed. I think.
I just said they're less.
Well, there's a sense in which that's true. There's certain vectors of programming that I think you're less likely to fall prey to, and I think like my TikTok example was good because once you reach a certain age, you may be done with TikTok, or really certain age brackets don't really fuck with TikTok, never really did in the status quo. But like the older generation is still programmable. Like a lot of older people, some of them are on Facebook, but actually some of them watch cable news. Like cable news disproportionately skews older, and like motherfuckers are watching Fox News every night and like believe in shit they see or whatever it is. It could be Newsmax, News Nation, it could be CNN, MSNBC. Like a lot of the older folks are watching that shit for real, and like they're believing a lot of it, even if it ain't true. And that's one means by which they can be programmed. It's not the only one. And like the programmability of human beings hasn't really to do with whether or not they're critical thinkers or not. It has more to do with how susceptible facets of their psychology are to impressions or being manipulated in various different ways. And like I think it also social media algorithms are one vector, but like television commercials are another vector, or like whatever you watch on TV. It doesn't have to be commercials or marketing. It can be like public service announcements. It can be news, whatever. Like anything that impacts the way that you think about things, right, can like be used to manipulate you, right? And like there are a lot of things you can do to minimize the likelihood that you'll be led astray. And I think a lot of us try to do that. We try to check our sources. We try to do different sources because we know about bias. We're maybe to a certain extent trying to be attentive to our mental, like, you know what I mean? Like to a certain degree attentive to our subconscious, but that's hard because it's subconscious. But we take steps to kind of minimize the ability to just be total robots or robotically programmed. But like we're all susceptible to it. Like no matter how smart we are, and no matter how like well-intentioned we are in our like diet of information, like we're all susceptible to that shit. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key is diet of information. I feel like you hit it on the spot, and I think as people get older, they generally narrow their variety of food sources in their informational diet. I think that's basically like my grandpa's generation was basically completely traumatized by Fox News, believed every random conspiracy theory, weapons of mass destruction, all that kind of stuff. And then I think the boomers, they just are just trapped in the world of academia, and they're just reading whatever fucking Politico and I don't know, all those liberal news you name it, right? And they're just stuck, trapped in that. And they think these are authoritative news sources, and they can't really move past that. And then whatever they look at online, it kind of just feeds that. They kind of just base their selection on that, and just becomes this never-ending kind of like reinforcement circle, or this force and function to continue to only feed them with what they see as authoritative news sources. So now basically the entire boomer generation is just like traumatized by CNN, Rolling Stone, and like you name it. So I think it's just like as people get older, they just become lazy in how they diversify their news sources, and they just end up having like an infinite feedback loop of the same kind of bullshit. And yeah, I just feel like that's kind of what it is. It's like the kind of duty as you get older to continue to make a effort to read, to like diversify your sources, because it's a cross-referencing that really, I don't know. Am I making sense? I feel like I'm making a point.
You know what I mean? The cross-referencing is one method of thing that you can use to like identify bias or not be misled with misinformation. And there's other strategies you can use. Making sure that you're not constantly participating in certain echo chambers and just trying to diversify what you hear. Being open to talking to people with different perspectives. These are all strategies. They're not all foolproof. They don't always prevent you from being tricked or misinformed, but they help. So yeah, I totally agree. I mean, the one of my like biggest drivers of being in these rooms is I'm trying to promote that kind of environment. Like I do want, no matter where your perspective is, I do want you to be able to like voice your opinion. I might disagree vehemently, but hey, at least I heard from you, and maybe you'll plant the seeds, and like in 30 days, I might be like, you know what, that one thing that one person said I disagree with, I kind of agree now. Like I like that, because to me that shows some kind of openness. And it doesn't always happen. Sometimes I'm like, no, I still disagree, but like at least I have some reasons now that I can articulate. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I try.
It's just frustrating, like that our older generation is completely kind of unaware of the tunnel vision and echo chambers that they're in, and then you end up with kind of like Russiagate bullshit being perpetuated for like 4 years. It takes people 4 years to like realize that's bullshit, And then most people that were really buying into that still don't realize that it was bullshit. And then our older population are the only motherfuckers that vote. So they're just like the ones voting based off a lot of bullshit. But I don't fucking know. Yeah, the younger population needs to be out there and vote because I feel like they're the ones that are a little bit more privy to some of the, like, they're the ones that generally have more diverse set of news sources. But I guess that's kind of like a separate
I think
issue.
some people who are members of the older generation deserve more credit though, because they're not a monolith. Like they don't all. There are people in the older generations who do use technology in similar ways to us, and they have learned how to navigate these things like us. So I wouldn't cast with too broad of a brush, but it probably
Could
is.
Trump convert a Word document into a PDF?
Could Trump? Probably not.
Yeah. Probably not, right?
But I can.
Probably not. But like
I can, and I know
Dr. Francine, and to be honest, I don't know that Trump's the greatest exemplar of like checking your sources. Trump regurgitates a lot of shit that's false all the time because of his echo chamber awareness.
I mean, I'm not trying to pick on Trump either. I'm just like making a point that like it's unfortunate that I think the older generation generally doesn't diversify news sources, and they're the only ones that vote. I think that makes us particularly susceptible as a society.
I think that's a horrible overgeneralization.
Yeah, I was gonna
Okay,
say.
well, I'm sorry, Dr. Francine. You're the exception.
A much broader palette than that. And he's really talking about.
I mean, there's wisdom that comes with old age, and a lot of the older people are wise in their approach to addressing the I would say the dilemma of misinformation. They do try to have like wide variety of sources. Some of them are still reading print newspapers. I don't know why, but a lot of them are
because some of us like books and papers as opposed to...
Yeah, that's a little, that's a stereotype. But like, yeah, some of them are just tech savvy, just like us. Like they know how to use smartphones. They're on Clubhouse. They access the same shit we access, and they have different methods and shit too. Like, so I don't wanna make it all of them. But there are like generational divides in the ways in which information is consumed that I also want to give credence to. And a lot of older people consume information in particular ways that are kind of like, the habits of their generation. Like cable news, for example. And I can acknowledge that too.
I think it's weird that society itself wants to get, like I hear this talk about older, and as I approach age, I find it ironic because when I was younger, I said the same thing, like, oh, you don't know anything. And we've all said that when we were young kids. When I was about to face the world, and gripped you by the shoes, Marshall, you got a lot of background, man. We heard this, and like when I was like young and going off to the military, and my dad said, "Be careful, son. The world's not what you think it is. The world is very dark. It's very conniving. It's manipulative. It's beautiful." And he gave me that whole speech, and I was like, "What does the old man know?" And my dad was right. As I grew up, I became a version of my father, and had to recognize that. Fuck, he was right about this. He was right about that. He was right about this. And I think that we disregard wisdom so much so, and then we're in favor. Like right now, you hear it in this room. People will, rather than ask or look up a reference, they'll utilize ChatGPT. I find that asinine, but and then be very quick to dismiss somebody who, like a Dr. Francine, who can give a take on what it was like to be, young in the 70s or 60s. And she can tell you the vibe and what people were generalizing, thinking, rather than, and give you a firsthand account of what was going on from her lens, and you can learn something. And we saw this in the pandemic when all the businesses and all those lockdowns, like, nobody knew how to fucking can, jar. Most of your wives and girlfriends couldn't cook a fucking meal to save their lives because they didn't know how, because Uber Eats was the biggest thing. And when they shut down restaurants, you couldn't Uber Eat shit. So you either had to live off of McDonald's or eat burnt crap that I eat. So, I mean, you have to look at, I don't know. I still say, like, as people age, they gain more wisdom, they gain more knowledge, and they gain more experience. And what we have is what we've had for decades and generations. That the younger generation just thinks they have all the answers, but oddly, they never know the question.
I agree with you, Brad. I agree with you. I'm not making. I probably made too general of a case. Definitely, I think all of us have gotten wiser as we got older, but I just think that, like, if you look at the age of the Senate, for example, it's like 25% is over 70. And if you look at all the ages of the presidential candidates, Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump, Biden, Elizabeth Warren, Clinton, etc., like there is a sense, which I think is very real, that people have gone past the traditional age of retirement and are kind of clinging on to power and maintaining a lot of old ideas that are not allowing new ideas to cycle in.
Like, what's an old idea you feel like, for lack of a better discussion, for lack of a better description, these old fuddy-duddies are getting in the way of?
Well, do you disagree that there's some sentiment that I'm saying, that I'm talking about, Marshall, like in general?
I mean, I get the sense that people want the old to loosen the reins on power. I don't necessarily get the sense that there is a budding crop of young people willing to step up and do good governance. I think good governance, in particular in the Senate, takes time to learn, and just throwing a new person in there in their 40s, while they may be in their 40s, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be able to negotiate stuff. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to know the rules of the Senate. It doesn't really mean they're going to know the culture of the Senate. All of those things can only be gained with time. Serving, 4, 5, 6 separate terms at 6 years apiece. And though that culture of the Senate is as important to its functioning as Jefferson's Rules of Order is to parliamentary procedure. Like the traditions of the Senate are kept.
I mean, I can still man the position. I can still man the position. And this attitude generically, although not universally or exclusively, comes from a progressive lens. There is a lot of, particularly in our government, like let's say Congress, for example, in Capitol Hill, there's a lot of deference to like the good old boys. There's a lot of deference to senior members of Congress. And sometimes that deference is justified, and it's rooted in this idea that, hey, these people have been in there the longest, they're therefore the most savvy, and can help you navigate, the way things are done in Washington or whatever. But sometimes, and especially from the lens of the progressives, is viewed as like arbitrary bases to keep things the same that ought to be changed. And so, like, there's a tension there, and I think the progressives have a point. And sometimes these examples become pretty, like, I think obvious. One such example perhaps is the issue right now that is actually being talked about making it so that members of Congress can't trade stocks. I think that's a great idea. I think that it's a bastion of corruption that Congress members have ever been able to do that. And by the way, I don't think that the vice president or the president should be able to do so either. Nancy Pelosi's insider trading ass is a great example of why that's. And she acts like she and her husband are not guilty of anything, but she would say that. But I think the evidence against her is obvious. Regardless, because that might be the product of my own bias. Like the mere perception of corruption is enough to change this, whether or not she's actually guilty of anything legally actionable or not. And like, there are a lot of people in Congress who are resisting this, and they don't seem to have good arguments, at least in my opinion, other than something akin, and I heard this argument, I forget who, something akin to, why are we punishing people for making money? why are we punishing people who want to serve in Congress for making money? And it's like, that is not a good argument against this at all to me. Now, there's some details in the bill that was proposed by Holly that I think actually are debatable, to be fair to the people who are against it. But the basic idea of making explicit prohibitions that members of Congress, who often have something akin to insider information, although technically, legally, it's not considered that gives them an upper hand and puts them in a position relative to the general public that they can benefit from trading stocks that they own, is a bad thing and reeks of corruption that shouldn't happen. Like, most people in Congress actually agree with the general sentiment. But why is it so difficult to pass a bill that accomplishes that? I have no fucking idea, given all the bipartisan support. But that might be an example of where, like, something is being kept in place that should have changed a long time ago. And, like, a lot of it is like, this is the way we're used to doing it, or some reference to, like, it's totally normal for X, Y, and Z reasons. But, like, those aren't really good reasons in, I think, that particular context. And perhaps I can come up with a better example if that's not an acceptable one. But, like, I do think that sometimes this deference to the way things have always been done is an impediment to improving things.
I think it's because half these people wouldn't have got into politics in the first place. So you're basically taking away their motivation for getting into it.
I mean,
I just dedicated 20 years. You're going to take it away? This is what I'm here for.
I mean, it maybe, yeah.
I think just that was like actually a much better argument than I probably made myself. But I'm just looking at it from a very normie, common sense perspective that all the presidential candidates that had a serious chance of winning outside of Kamala, who was essentially a default selection due to Biden being cognitively impaired, which is particularly germane to the point that I'm making, right? The auto pen is particularly relevant to the point that I'm trying to make, right? Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Clinton, Trump.
What are you talking about? Kamala was chosen for all of her joy.
Right. It was a campaign of joy. I mean, I just think from a very common sense perspective, when every single candidate is in their 80s, that's pretty fucking weird. I think that's a very strange society that we're living in. When those are the only options. So people would say, oh, well, you could have voted for Amy Klobuchar or something, as if she's so much fucking younger. Like, the point is they didn't have a serious chance of winning, right? I'm talking about candidates. So I'm just arguing from a very common sense perspective. I think a lot of people think that's pretty fucking weird.
To return back kind of to the topic proper, I do want to explore it to the extent people are willing. I do want to explore this, what I consider an interesting dilemma of what is the proper response to a naked power grab of the sort that the Texas GOP is being accused of by the Democrats. Should they fight fire with fire and get their hands dirty in the process, doing the very thing that they're decrying as unfair? Or should they do something else that's more consistent with the fact that they view it as wrong? Why or why not?
Well, if they were really that upset, to bring it back to your original topic, then they would stop the practice themselves. Then they would put a legislation up to actually prevent it across all 50 states. I wouldn't be advocating for a universal body, but I could see that that you should make it mandated that redistricting must be adequately and the lines need to be drawn. But Democrats really don't want that kind of shift. They want the optic of this. That's all they want. They want to be able to redo it themselves, like they did in New York, like they do in California, like they do in Chicago, all over all their spots, Carolinas, etc. And they have no problem doing that. And then they say, "Oh, we're just the people. Never mind when we do it." And then they cry about Republicans, and vice versa. So unless one side is willing to actually stop the practice and then put forward legislation to outlaw the practice, then I don't know what they're crying about, because quite frankly, it's just bullshit on both sides.
Hey, bro,
But what should they do?
That means that they should do it then. If they've been doing it and they known for that, then in this instance, they stand to lose 5 seats. I mean, they definitely should do it. So I don't see the reason why not.
But Brad, what should they do then?
I mean, again, people are gonna turn, and particularly those on the left, they're gonna go turn and say the federal government needs to come in. And I would say that states, like you have 50 different entities that rule on this, or some variants of this across the states, that determine districts or determine what's in terms of like who's going to be in what populace for voting and who's under what. So unless those 50 somehow or that state becomes aligned in some facet, then you won't have it. And the thing that I would not would be the federal government to have oversight over that process, because Joe Biden tried to introduce that bill and he wanted it to rest in the decision hands of 3 federal district judges that were appointed by the president. That was a naked fucking power grab. And I mean, it didn't gain any traction. No one wanted that fucking shit, not even Democrats, because they looked long term and said there'll eventually be a Republican president who wield this power and it could come and backfire on us. So it died off rather quickly. So I mean, I don't have an answer for this situation. I really don't. People say to use AI to draw maps. I don't think that's right. Again, on the national level, it's a mute point. On your local level, get better fighters. If Democrats were really so invested in Texas, like they keep screaming about, then start recognizing what Texans' issues are.
Wait, but right? What should they do?
There's nothing. I think you should do nothing. I think this is just an optic.
You should do nothing. You should let the GOP just have a naked power grab.
Like again, where was the outrage when Democrats did it 2-3 years ago in New York? You didn't hold a room on it.
Well, I didn't know about it.
Oh, okay. But I mean, like, you know, like I'm not going to fault you for that. But I mean, there you go. It's an optic. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to be done, and there's nothing
okay. Is it wrong to gerrymander? Like,
no,
it's not wrong to gerrymander.
Is it illegal?
I didn't say
the Democrats should follow suit then, right?
Is it? Well, I mean, another way to ask it is it consistent with democratic principles to allow partisan gerrymander?
Well, that, you know, no, I wouldn't say it falls in line with what people's perceptions of, but we're a constitutional.
I'm not talking about perceptions. I mean, objectively, like, is it consistent?
I don't want a democracy in the United States. I do not want a full blown. Neither does anybody.
Hold on. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the one man, one vote principle. Okay, everybody gets a say insofar as you're eligible to vote, and your say is not like diluted by weird line drawing games of either party. Isn't like that would be fair, I think, and consistent with that principle, that democratic principle. To the extent that gerrymandering undermines the fairness of that, isn't it bad?
Yeah, but it can also be good. It could help an impoverished. Wait, hold on. The same in the inverse. It can help an impoverished district. So, for instance, if it gets incorporated under a more industrial, that representative is much better, much more alignment, sits on higher committees. All of a sudden, that congressperson brings back representation that's able to, which channels, guess what? Federal funding, federal tax, federal programs. And that's what Congress people should be fighting for. So,
but hold on. But it's subject. The problem with that is that it's subject to the whims of nakedly partisan actors. That's what makes it awkward. Like, so like, yeah, it might turn out to have some definable benefit for a jurisdiction that was like unintended, but that would be an accident. That's not the point of it. The point of it is to concentrate power into the partisan actors that are doing the redistricting.
I mean, you're talking to, you're like, naked political power grabs have been happening. You brought up Cambridge Analytics. Obama nakedly used that shit, and then Trump put it on steroids on his first term. And then Biden utilized it, and then Trump used it again. So, like, that's a naked power grab.
Yeah, but it doesn't have the impact of diluting the
again, you're not going to get me to have this. You're not going to get me to say that this is morally wrong, because it's not morally wrong.
But
you're uncomfortable with it, though.
But it is inconsistent. Hold on. But it is inconsistent with principles, fair principles of democracy, isn't it?
I mean, do you want to just throw out the Democrats and Republicans? I'd be on board with it.
No. I'm not taking a side. I think Democrats and Republicans are equally guilty, and when they do it, they're doing something bad. But I'm acknowledging that it's bad. You're resisting that for some reason. I don't understand.
because you're looking at it, you're trying to get to a moral lens, and I think it's.
I am.
And I'm not. I don't see the morality in it. I just see it as fucking we do zoning for houses. That's basically redistricting and determining where you can live or what house you can have or which commercial space is going to do.
Well, that can also be wrong. But okay, I guess I'm trying to appeal to your conception of what fairness demands in a social context, in a political context, right?
I mean, it's 50-50. Like, again, people, like, show me the intrinsic harm that has occurred outside of the Democrats losing a couple of seats this time around. When they've done it and gained seats in the past. So show me the intrinsic harm. Show me where the decimation.
There's been entire voting blocks that have been effectively disenfranchised because districts have been drawn in such a way to undermine or minimize their impact on political outcomes in the context of elections. And that has a bunch of implications for the attentiveness of issues that are germane or important to those voting blocks. This is especially bad when you consider the history of the South and various different tactics that they've done to disenfranchise black voters in particular. Right, like a lot of these things are continuing.
I get the point, and I get the history, and I'm not discounting.
But that's harmful, though. I think.
I agree that was done in harmful practices. But in today's age, 2025.
No, I'm saying I'm saying it's a continuation. So I'm saying I'm some of the same jurisdictions, like Georgia. Let's go with Georgia. Georgia is a particular place where a lot of these racist practices were done, particularly prior to the Jim Crow South, and then a lot of similar tactics are being done to dilute the black vote in places like Georgia, like even currently.
I'm not discounting history. I know the practices that went on. That was practiced by fucking Democrats. They poll taxes, etc. We could go down the laundry list of that shit. But I mean, today in 2025, you're saying, well, it's going to disproportionately affect this group of voters that routinely vote one certain way and one party has control of that area for 25 years, and now all of a sudden they dilute that.
It dilutes the power of that voting block is the thing I'm trying to do, even to this day. And that's a problem.
So your voting block is based on only a certain ideology of a collection of people that are huddled in.
No. What I was about to say is, a lot of times when it comes to like the black vote, a lot of times the reason why black people vote overwhelmingly in one direction is because they share a lot of concerns for their communities and a lot of political orientation towards solving them. And so that's why they vote overwhelmingly for certain kinds of constituents that have certain kinds of policies. And so like diluting that voting block in these jurisdictions is harmful because what they're trying to do is that they're trying to leverage their vote just like anybody else as a constituency to vote people into office that they think are going to be best suited to address their issues. And if their votes get diluted in these conniving ways, then their ability to effectuate that is therefore undermined. And what that means ultimately is a lot of their issues do not get addressed adequately.
Okay, so what about so then take the inverse. How about the minority group that exists within that same populations whose voting concerns can never be recognized or ever be leveraged because they never have a fair opportunity to voice their concerns or vote in a certain way because a larger demographic that is pandered to, and I'm not saying just black people, I can say white, Asian, fucking whatever, Martians if you want to, but you can have a pandering done, and that smaller minority, which we have seen in overwhelmingly, like let's take Georgia, let's take MGT, the fucking idiot of the South, let's take that twat waffle. And in her district, if that was to be broken up and she would not be able to leverage the majority, which would overwhelmingly be people who align with her, and she had to contend or contest with a minority or a broader minority of different ideological thought, then all of a sudden, it's now you have to work at it. So you can have your cake both ways on this one, I think.
I mean, you seem to be describing what I was describing happens to black people, but I guess you're applying it to a different block, and that's fine. Like I imagine that probably happens in various places of the country. where it's not just
Asian voters.
It's not just a black voter. Yeah. So for me,
Asian voters in California and Washington. You know,
I acknowledge that happens, but my point is, if it were to happen in the same deliberate way that I'm describing when it comes to the black electorate in places like Georgia, then I would object to it for the same reason. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think that you should be able to arbitrarily draw lines in power grabby ways that dilute or undermine the vote of entire minority groups of people, no matter what the groups are. Right? Like I'm against it in principle, and I'm just applying it to some examples that implicate black voters because those are the ones that I'm the most familiar with. But yeah, if it implicated Asian voters, if it implicated Hispanic voters, if it implicated, poor white voters in fucking Appalachia or some shit, cool. I would object to it for the same reason. That's all. I'm simply saying it's easy for me to say this practice is wrong, it's untoward, it's unsavory, it's immoral, it's unjust.
You can say it's unsavory. I call it politics. I mean, you're trying to put a morality on something that is neither moral or immoral. It is political.
But if it implicates fairness, how could it not implicate morality, right? Like, if it's unfair.
Okay, tell me about what in politics is absolutely fair. Please.
Absolutely fair.
But you're asking for fairness in politics. It does not exist.
I am. I am asking for that because it's within our. Hold on. Because it's within our local control and a policy.
No, it's not.
It literally is. We do not have to gerrymander. We do not have to allow it. It is within the locus of control.
Okay. Give me your alternative to gerrymandering or redistricting. Give me your.
You can have. Yeah, there's several alternatives. So you can have an independent redistricting commission, like a lot of states have, that is more accountable to the voters and whose job it is functionally to draw district maps that make sense, that are not designed to give either or party an advantage, but are designed to, in some sensible way, make sure that politicians who are voted in office are reasonably accountable to their constituencies. Like, that's a solution.
Okay. So that solution is already in place, and that
several jurisdictions, not every jurisdiction.
No, but it's around there. There's some form of representation of that in all 50 states. However,
no, Texas does not have.
Yes, there is.
Texas does not have an IRC, bro.
No, but they use some other implementation.
No, the state legislature draws the lines. That's what
yes, I know, and they get that off of advisements. So, like, you have all the this redistricting map groups in the 50 states are just advisements, and they get in there, and depending on their leanings, they're going to be one way or the other. That's why the arguments. But then, what is the mechanism in place to prevent what New York, Carolina, Pennsylvania, and California, or not? Yeah, California did. Particularly New York, where it ignored.
You can have. I mean, that's actually a fair question. I actually would willing to answer that. You can have something equivalent to like a certain threshold that needs to be met for a veto by the legislature. So, for example, rather than the legislature being able to willy-nilly wipe their ass with recommendations from the IRCs, like in California and New York, what you can do is have a certain critical mass of the legislature needs to be reached in order to be able to veto what the recommendation was. And you can make it, I don't know, fucking 70% or whatever. So you can make it high enough where it's not easy to accomplish.
So 85% of the Democrats in the New York, when that happened, redrew the lines and ignored it. And they absolutely just shot it. And Governor Kathy Hochul just basically said, oh, nope, I disagree with them as well, and just bypassed it altogether. So,
you can, okay, fine, you can make, instead of like,
if you're going to make a mechanism,
I'm going to revise. You can make it, instead of like a threshold, because it actually, some of these legislatures are that skewed, and I didn't take that into account. So maybe then you can put it to a vote then. So then there has to be a certain threshold of voters who approve of the veto.
So then you want a populist decision.
Yeah, that might be a bet, but only when the legislature makes a move or a motion to veto the.
Now, wouldn't that skew it based on? So, like, let's take I'll stay with New York. Wouldn't New York City have the largest proportion and power of that vote versus the rest of the fucking state? Because that would be the issue there.
I mean, yeah, but that's fine because the whole state is voting on it. So it's a state initiative. So basically, you make them accountable to the voters by building in that, look, if the IRC, whose job it is to draw fair lines, is going to be overturned in some way by the legislature, you got to get the approval of the voters. And if you don't get the approval of the voters, then they can't veto it. They can't just be like, nah, we're good.
So again, your solutions don't take into account the power grab that would actually exist and the power grab that would be replacing, but it would definitely be a power grab. You would give far more power to places like Los Angeles than, I don't know.
That's fine. I accept that. You're right. But because the rest of the state has a say, right? Like, I think that the benefits outweigh whatever negatives you can identify with the outsized power of the most concentrated areas of the state.
No, because even here, I'm only picking on New York because I was actually born, bred, and buttered there. But when you look at it, the decisions that Albany makes for the rest of the state are solely based on the principality of New York City. Like, they overwhelmingly have so much say in terms of what goes on in the rest of the state, and everything is allocated towards what is best for New York City.
I'm accepting that as a reality.
And if you're going to have a group or a body that says, hey, we're going to put it to the people, and then you have a group saying, hey, we need to redistrict here so we can keep our power here because you guys love blue or you love red, you wouldn't want that going on in Texas. Like, you would have Democrats freaking screaming to the rafters.
I'm trying to do two things. I'm trying to still disagree with you, but I'm also trying to acknowledge the truth of what you're saying. This is actually generally true in the status quo. There's a disproportional outsized power to the most concentrated places in the state. So the major cities, the Los Angeles, the New York cities, etc. That's a reality that exists, and you're not wrong to point out that there would be a favoring of some sense to these areas. But my statewide initiative is still, I think, justifiable because the purpose of it is not to render any kind of electoral advantages moot. It's to give accountability for decisions about redistricting back to the people. So the people get to have, if the legislature wants to override what the IRC did, they got to get the approval of the people. They can't just do it for partisan reasons.
But they would be able to.
It's a check and a balance that's not meant to satisfy everything. It's meant to satisfy something very specific.
Okay, so again, it would be a power grab. It would actually skew, let's stay with New York. New York City, mainly blue. The rest of the state would actually vote in a kind of red. You would actually be surprised at how many areas are actually red, and by significant amounts.
I know.
And then those voices would have absolutely no say in anything that went on
they would have say. It would be skewed towards the more
populous. Then what is wrong with redistricting then? Because you're basically having the same issue that you're complaining about.
Because the inequality of say is maximized with the arbitrary redistricting in a way that the disproportionality of say just by population concentration that's accomplishable in a state would be. So it's harm reduction.
So
it's not as skewed as it would be if we allowed the power grabbing gerrymandering. Is my point.
I think you're not truthful in that. I mean, we could sit there and say, what, Dallas? All right, I'll pick on Dallas, Texas. Dallas, Texas, or let me get a better state. Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, or whatever it is.
Brett, how so? How so?
The overwhelming power. It would not, in that concentrated area, would have far more implications, even though the demographics of minorities exist far outside that and in a multitude of areas within regards to that state. And that power center, which it seems to be the hub, the business hub, the major employment hub, that would actually end up being the power center, and they would be able to determine it, which would still cause your inequalities that would exist in other districts around the state.
The goal of the policy proposal isn't to eliminate, I guess, all inequalities between votes, because I don't even know that that's possible. I don't think that's accomplishable, right?
But you held me to the fairness standards. You said you wanted
I know, but what?
So you can't do that.
There's a difference in. Hold on, dude. There is a difference in the impacts that you're not taking into account, right? So, like, the ability for a state to arbitrarily gerrymander in such a way as to pick up 5 congressional seats in favor of a particular party, right? And the minority party just has to eat that, right? That kind of discrepancy in congressional representation is not really replicable with the policy that I just articulated, which is if you're going to have an IRC whose job it is to draw district lines in a fair way that don't benefit one party or the other, you can even make your IRC mandatorily bipartisan if you wanted to ensure balance, right? And then the ability of the state legislatures, which are skewed in various different states to one direction or the other, to just wipe their ass with that fair recommendation, we want to block that because otherwise we're not really doing much to stop what's already happening in the status quo. So one way to block that is give it to the voters to decide on. If you can convince enough voters in a state to go along with the overturning of the recommendation from the IRC, then at the very least what we know is that the voters in that state jurisdiction are cool with it overwhelmingly, right? But like if you can't do that, then you got to go with what the IRC recommended. I think that that's a fair balance.
Okay.
And what I argue what that would do is it would minimize the likelihood that you'll have these redistricting as egregious as we have it in places like Texas right now.
Okay, so I'm going to present two challenges.
All unfairness in voting. The goal is to reduce harm by minimizing the likelihood of these kinds of naked power grabs. That's the goal.
Okay, so I'm going to state two things wrong with this theory right now. One, how do you appoint the IRC? How is it done? Is it picked by a governor? Is it picked by a panel? Are they elected to the position? Are we creating another federal entity? Are we looking to another government source and more tax dollars should be used? That's my first part. My second part is the inverse could be true. So you talked about like minority communities, which I will say most will say just for the sake of like Georgia are around the urban areas. Now, as we saw in the past election with Stacey Abrams and whatever the dipshit governor is down there, the inverse can be true. The rest of the state could actually side with an RIC that specifically targets and does split the minority area and creates a less dynamic vocal or voting representation in terms of elections and in terms of their power, and the rest of the state can sit there and basically do exactly what you're concerned about. So I don't know if your idea is a better one. I think it would cause the same problems that you're actually trying to address.
I mean, yeah, but again, if I thought I acknowledged the second part, I'll do them in reverse. Like, it is possible on the policy I proposed that the state could vote in a way where they overturn it and they vote for the naked power grab. But my point is, at the very least, that means that the constituents of that state were cool with it. They voted for it. And so they're accountable to the people. Right? My guess is a lot of people would object to it because they would be from jurisdictions that would be shortchanged. So I don't think that it's interesting to what extent that it's likely that the majority would go along with some of these because they're really egregious. But at some sense, that because it would have to go to a vote, then it would behoove whatever maps are being drawn by the state legislature to be attentive to the acceptableness or lack thereof of the general state population. So that's why that's a check and a balance on that. It's not foolproof, but it is useful though, because then it maximizes accountability to the people. The first thing is, how would you do it? I mean, there's a lot of different ways you do it. One is you can build it so that you have a certain amount of Democrats and a certain specified amount of Republicans on the IRC.
Or does California do it that way too?
I don't know. I literally am just making this up as I go along because it seems sensible to me. I don't know how a lot of these IRCs work. I can look into it. But what you could do is you can construct an IRC. You have a certain amount of vacant spots, and a certain subset of them are reserved for Republicans, and a certain subset are reserved for Democrats. You can make it so it's uneven for tiebreaker purposes. So maybe you have 15 spots, and you can say whoever's in the majority, that they can have the majority, so the 8 and versus the 7. Or you can just make them even, and you can have some kind of tie-breaking protocol that goes beyond them. Maybe the governor has to weigh in or something. I don't know. But like, you could structure it that way to maximize balance between parties and to ensure fairness between parties.
So in Texas, they do senatorial redistricting commissions that travel the state. I participated in a hearing last time this happened, and I'll participate in one this time. However, a former state rep told me, and he was in the know, that in Texas, the folks that decide what the map looks like are the lieutenant governor, governor, and speaker of the House. So they take the redistricting committee into effect or into account, however much 3 people are going to take that kind of crap into account, which I think they don't take it into account, or at least I don't have anything that would comfortably let me know they took the public's view into account, and then the 3 of them chop it up. Like, Rick was a little upset with me today because I was kind of lackadaisical about it, and I'm lackadaisical about it because I can speak to the Senate Redistricting Commission and definitely will make my voice heard, but at the end of the day, it's the speaker, governor, and the lieutenant governor, and there ain't shit I can do about it. There's like shit all Marshall Rankin can do to make that redistricting situation more fair.
I'm looking up a bunch of different, so there's a bunch of different ways that these commissions are done. Sometimes they do random selections, which is interesting. Sometimes they involve legislators to have some kind of role in the selection process. Sometimes they do an application and review process, qualifications and restrictions process, bipartisan or non-bipartisan balance. So many commissions are structured to include a balance of Democrats, Republicans, and often members not affiliated with either party. Yeah, the structure aims to promote consensus and prevent partisan gridlock. Yeah, so I think I would favor just a bipartisan balance structure where you have a certain designated amount for Democrats, designated amount for Republicans, and maybe some people who are neither, or even maybe some representatives of other parties if you really wanted to get froggy. But the goal would be to have a balance between the commission and make it bipartisan in a true sense, rather than just in name only, so that you don't get outsized influence from either direction, because that's what you're trying to counteract from the state legislature. The state legislature is out of balance. So in order to create balance, you create an independent entity, a commission, that has a balance of power. And then in order to override the thing that they create with the balance of power, you need to go through the people or have some kind of check so that you're not just literally rendering moot the very purpose for the existence of the IRC. So that's why I recommended something like put it to a state vote. That's not the only way to do it. You could maybe have some other protocol that is meant to minimize the likelihood that fair redistricting boundaries are going to be overwritten for partisan purposes. But the goal is to have something like that, some kind of check and balance. I gave one, maybe I can come up with another if I thought really hard. I don't find that the one I came up with is that problematic. I recognize that there would be outsized voting power in the parts of the state that are the most concentrated, but that is not commensurate with the level of imbalance that we're trying to prevent. So my counter is, yeah, I accept that a little bit of imbalance, but it doesn't match the level of imbalance we're trying to prevent. Therefore, I think it's acceptable. And one of the reasons why I think it's acceptable, the biggest reason is there's no way to eliminate all imbalance in electoral processes. Like there's just the nature of populations. Like
but if that's the case, why not?
You can minimize the level of imbalance and the impact that it has ultimately on outcomes. And I think that the things I propose accomplish that within reason.
Don't want to change the system at all. Thank you.
Because it minimizes the goddamn imbalance. I just said that. What are you talking about?
That you can create new imbalances. Like you're
well, I don't care if the new imbalances are less than the first imbalances. Then I still accomplished something. That's the point. Like you can't minimize, you can't get rid of every. Do you think that you can just eliminate all imbalances in government? Like, is that what you think?
I'm not the one that put that question forward. You asked.
Okay, well then can you at least acknowledge what I said?
You wanted to.
Hold on, Brad. I don't want you to strong man what I'm saying. Okay, wait, but just understand what I'm saying. Like the goal is not to eliminate all imbalances. The goal is to minimize the imbalances, the egregiousness and the harms that come from them. And I think that I articulated a policy that reasonably will accomplish that. You really haven't said anything substantive about why that's not the case. You just keep saying it's not the case. Or you keep insisting that because there's some imbalance that is preserved, it somehow renders the actions I'm recommending move. But like if the imbalance is minimized and the harm of them is reduced, why is that not an accomplishment?
All you're doing is shifting the imbalances to you don't even have an outcome ratio. You just think it may do it for a particular sector, but you're actually going to shift the imbalances to a larger population, as I stated before. We don't contend with that. You acknowledge it. But see, that's what you do. Wait a minute. Stop.
I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
But you want me to go on the morality?
Because it doesn't make sense, Brad. You're just saying things.
No, what you say doesn't make sense.
I'm literally about to ask a clarifying question, Brad. Jesus fucking Christ, bro. Like, how is it not obvious that there is a reduction in the harm associatable with the naked power grabs of the sort that Texas is engaged in right now?
First, you have to show me what harm in 2025 is at.
I just told you that disenfranchising.
Show me the actual harm.
Disenfranchising black voters is obviously harmful. I don't know why you're acting like that's not harmful. You just admitted it was.
I never said anything was harmful. I said there was no morality. I said there was no morality.
Wait, Brad. Is disenfranchising black voters in places like Georgia harmful?
Yes, that would be. How does this disenfranchise them?
Because if you dilute the votes of
Texas news, I asked you to show me.
No, I said like Georgia, Texas counts. There's black people in Texas. Like
I fully dilute the vote.
If you dilute the vote, the black vote in Texas, is that not harmful?
If you dilute it,
yes.
Okay. Maybe not. You haven't shown me that.
What the fuck?
Because you're thinking that all black people vote on the similar thing, and I'm saying there are people. Yes, you do.
I
so you're saying it's diluted the black vote. Do all black people vote the same? So if it's an ideological spectrum, and you're saying that the Democrats are losing black people in these areas, but then there's a contingent that is ideologically separated from the Democrat plantation, so to speak, as they call it.
The ideology is not relevant.
Oh, yes, it is, because those voices haven't been heard in those strongly controlled blue areas.
Do you understand what that is?
You're only going down one area, and you're not actually.
I'm just trying to ask you a question. Do you understand the means that are taken to dilute the black vote?